Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Legends of LOR. This week, I am joined by two guests. First off, we have James.
Yo, hopefully my mic's working.
James, your mic is working. And then after that, we have Frenchie. Hello, Frenchie.
Hi, it's me, Frenchie, returning for the first time.
For the first time. And yeah, we've had quite the busy week this week. We've had our first week of Aegis. We have the first open of this season on a Saturday. And then we guess we have a few other things we can talk about as well. So why don't we get into how Aegis went this week? So how'd it go for you guys? Because my team wound up going 2-1. So we're at a comfortable second place in our group, group 2. And I think we're pretty well positioned to either get first, or at the very least, I think we're going to get out, guaranteed.
We went 1 and 2 this week. Right now, we're third in the standings, but Group 3 is very close right now. So honestly, I kind of don't know what's going to end up happening by week 3, but I hope we are not fourth by the end of week 3.
Yeah, I believe Group 3 was one of the groups that didn't have a 3-0, correct?
No, it was two 2-1s and two 1-2s.
Yeah,
And I think, as it was you who mentioned before, we experienced the cycle of suck, where every team beat the other team.
yes.
And usually that happens like over like 2 or 3 weeks. But no, we managed to do that in week 1,
Yeah,
which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, and I am proud of you guys. How about you, James? How's your team doing?
My team, we went 2-1 this week, which got us second, but my matches I had to reschedule to the Monday, and my match determined if my team was real, but sadly I couldn't win. But the other good news about my rescheduled matches was the set that didn't matter because my team already 2-0'd TKGW. The opponent I rescheduled with no-showed, so I got my only win from a no-show.
Nice. Yeah. I'm excited that Aegis is back. It's really fun to play in, and it's really cool to see the different teams' takes on the meta and what they come up with. So it's really cool that different teams bring different decks and different lineups, and all of these things interact with each other. So I'm excited to keep playing Aegis. Hoping this season, last season we wound up getting 5th, 6th. This season I'm hoping for at least top 4. So fingers crossed that I get that to happen. And I'm sorry that I'm probably gonna have to go through one of you two guys to get there. Something. James and I always fight at some point in Aegis.
Yeah, Dragon, you'll have to get through the current 5th place team of Aegis, FGW, to make 5th first.
True. FGW. There's FGW in Friends. You are correct.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Hawk might show up and reverse sweep you guys.
Yeah, you know.
Well, if you think about it, Dragon, you need to go through my team technically.
True, because
to get out of groups.
True, because while I'm not, Frenchie is not in my group. He's in 3 and I'm in 2. One of his sister teams, the Shadow Isles Money Mafia, is in my group, so I had to get through them.
Yeah, so you'd have to beat us. I mean, maybe we both make it. Maybe the sister team and your team make it out of groups. That would be pog.
We'll have to see.
We will.
Yeah. It all comes down to how well you do in plans.
Yeah.
True.
And you know what? We'll be playing again this Friday. And then the day after that, we have our first open, which is, I think it's pretty crazy that the open's happening already, considering the cards have only been out for, I don't even think the cards have been out for 2 full weeks yet, have they?
No.
It's been roughly 2 weeks.
Has it been roughly 2 weeks? I think it's just under 2 weeks, right?
I think it's under 2 weeks from when we're recording, but by the time this goes live, it might be 2 full weeks. But yeah, it's like basically 2.5 weeks after the set, we have our first open on the patch, and I think that's pretty crazy.
You can tell that I actually didn't realize how fast this open was happening by the fact that I have yet to play a single gauntlet match.
Based. Hey, you know what? I did my first Ruthless Rumble yesterday, and I went 4-0, and then I lost the last 2 games for the 5th win in a row.
Wait, the Ruthless Rumbles were here. Wait, they
Yeah.
didn't end until yesterday? I was misinformed. I thought they ended on Friday. God damn it.
No, they started. Was it Friday or Saturday?
I think they're still going through this entire week, maybe.
If they
Yeah.
are, then I gotta get on that train and actually do a Ruthless Rumble.
Oh, you have a Ruthless token.
I do have a Ruthless token.
Oh,
Gotta use a token.
speaking of tokens, I'm pretty sure they're bugged because when they originally started this system after the beta season, they brought up the tokens aren't meant to transfer, but then as I've talked with more and more players, oh, I still have my tokens from last season.
Yep, I had mine.
I have 3 from last season still.
Nice.
Oh, Dragon, turns out the 12th of July will officially be 2 weeks because June 28th was when the expansion came out.
Yep, that makes sense to me. But yeah, 2.5 weeks. I think the meta has definitely changed quite a bit in that 2.5 weeks. I think Siren Song has risen up, and then we've had some other decks that have been cropping up as well to either counter it or just emerge as other decks that beat other decks. Like obviously the big meta players right now, Fizz Siren Song is probably the boogeyman of the format, I would say. It's got a
Yeah.
lot of game into everything. Siren Song makes the removal line up really poorly against the deck. It has plenty of win conditions from Reaver's Row to Solani to Winding Light to just beating your ass down with like 5 1-drops on turn 4.
And the fact that they have access to Moonlight's Affliction to take away your blockers, or if you're running a more value-oriented control deck, preventing things from like flipped karma or flipped set from ruining
Yeah.
your life.
Moonlight Affliction can do some messed up things. Like you can take out 2 blockers, you can ruin your opponent's attack by taking out 2 of their units, so it can do some very powerful things.
But for real thing, how could Nightfall do this yet again, getting abused by other decks?
It turns out Nightfall is best when you don't play Nightfall cards. Yeah. Besides Fizz, we have Eve's. There's also Evelyn Targon. Evelyn Targon was like probably the first big deck that emerged this patch, but it's since fallen off a little bit as more counters to the deck have emerged. It is still doing quite well in stats. Zolani is a really strong winning condition for that, but I think it's not as flexible as the Fizz deck and its having more win conditions, but it makes up for that with better units to play. Like Eve is it's better than any card you can really play in the Fizz deck. And like Steam, you get to have like Steam, you get to have Dom, like some of the other cards. Diana, some versions are playing Diana, some versions are playing Mono Eve, some versions are even playing Kale. Those are the wrong ones. But
Do not
yeah,
play Kale.
there's plenty of game that has right now. I think Eve's biggest weakness is that it doesn't play many units. So a lot of their units are more expensive. While they care about 1-drops with the Siren Song for buffing Husk, they don't actually run that many 1-drop card. It's just Divine Clerk, whereas like the Fizz deck actually main decks like 16 to 21 drops and has Reaver's Row, so they are able to get wider and on board against Eve and can usually beat the Eve down before Eve can fully become online. And then Moonlight Affliction can also just blow you out if you're having a good turn.
Well, you see, Dragon, there's this cool new interaction that people are only just finding out that's been in the game. If you peddle Diana and have her on board before you cast Siren Song, she also is considered a 1-drop and gets buffed. Same with a 2-drop elusive.
You are correct. That is a
That is
neat thing.
true.
Although, important to note, if you do it after you've played Siren Song, even if it's a 1-drop, it will not get the buff, I believe.
Exactly, which I wasn't omitting for any reason in particular at all. Nope, not at all, Smile.
Exactly. We definitely weren't hoping our opponents would do that and mess up in the future. Just, but yeah. those are the two main Siren Song decks. There's a few other Siren Song decks that exist. Like there's Teemo Jinx that exists. There's Aatrox Bilgewater, but those are not as prevalent. It is possible to build a 9-time Siren Song lineup if you really want to, but I think outside of Eve and Fizz, it's a little difficult to find the third one that's going to be as powerful as those two.
So, as far as the Jinx one goes, it actually is like a considerable deck because I brought it as one of my Aegis decks, but I had to do the classic replace Teemo with Daring Portal because I brought the Teemo Ionia Elusives decks. And what's actually surprising is the Jinx Siren Song. The Chemtech Catermobile can carry some games. And like Jinx, like cause your deck's so cheap, you can just keep cycling rockets. And if they never answer Jinx, you eventually you can outdamage a Divine Clerk. Do you want to play that long of a game? God, no. Will you maybe have to play that long of a game if you play Jinx Siren Song? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, another thing with Jinx Siren Song is that there's other Jinx decks that exist right now that I think are better. Like first one I'm thinking about is Jinx Bandle City. I think is probably the best burn deck this season right now. I think that's a fair.
Yeah, I would argue that it is the best one. Yeah.
And
It's
we
like-
can't forget about the classic Jinx Noxus with Samira.
Yeah, yeah, and Samira Jinx is also still existing and still doing pretty decently. Samira's definitely fallen off more this season than I thought she would. I thought Samira would still find success in a few decks, but Samira's kind of faded into the background this expansion, it feels. Because she just has trouble competing with all the Siren Song stuff because she can't really use it herself because she's 2 mana.
Yeah.
The real shocking deck that suddenly popped out of nowhere is yesterday's MR Daily was won by Dolmont with Mono Teemo Puff Caps.
Shout out
Yes.
to Dolmont, my teammate.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's. I think it's actually not that surprising to come back to the fact that technically Riot released a lot of broken cards in this expansion. And broken, I mean very potentially powerful cards, but they didn't really see a lot of experimentation. Like people saw Siren Song and how powerful it was, and we kind of like saw that experiment with that a lot, and kind of left the other cards alone. Like some monument we talked about previously about like it is a top 10 card, as we both agreed with Dragon and I, but like it never really saw experimentation with or saw like what could happen and where it could go. And we're sort of seeing like as the meta develops and becomes more mature, people are branching out and trying out new decks with some of those new cards that they didn't see play before.
Yeah, it's some monument is becoming a real deck. Yeah, like James mentioned, it's a Teemo Bandle City. It's also a Teemo Freljord version, but I think the Teemo Bandle City version, which is playing Condense, is way better because what you can do is you can play Karina, and then you can condense Karina, and you can push a lot of damage very quickly. And with Sub Monument, you can't get killed on the crackback, which is one of the big weaknesses for Puff Caps, which is like you're good at putting the puff caps in your opponent's deck, but you have a hard time defending your Nexus sometimes. So some Monument just buys that deck enough time to build up the puff cap count high enough where Karina just kills.
I was also going to just say that I should note that even though it is a Teemo Puff Cap deck, it doesn't exactly play. Its game plan isn't exactly like how older Puff Caps used to play, where before it was a sort of like focus on punching through a lot of Puff Cap damage, and then drawing into it, because in the era of Foundry and in the era of just with insider knowledge, you sort of like wanted to not mill your opponent, but have them draw a lot and get them through Puff Cap damage. But now it's a lot more of a combo-oriented deck of just slamming down Karina after Karina.
Yeah, like if you're playing the insider knowledge, you're more likely to die yourself than to have your opponent die, because with Sup Monument, you're going to be shuffling in a lot of puff caps into your deck very quickly, often more than your opponent. So you want to be very careful about how that goes. So yes, we had talked about Teemo, we talked about Jinx, we talked about Siren Song. Other decks that are doing quite well right now. Karma Set PNZ still exists, and I'd say it's probably the de facto deck that's going for a control lineup right now. It's got like if it gets to turn 10, your opponent is very likely going to have a bad time. However, it is also very bad into the puff cap decks because its win condition is it needs to draw more cards to win the game. And by drawing more cards, they're drawing more puff caps, so they will die.
It's also the fact that the deck is like from turn 1 to like turn 9 is like kind of tempo death in a way, because you cannot put that much pressure in with Karma Set in those early turns. So you can't really like pressure this Teemo deck back much if they just drop a Sup Monument.
But what they can do is destroy the landmark.
That is true. They can destroy the landmark.
Yeah, they are one of the few decks that can destroy the landmark. The problem is that like if you're destroying the landmark before turn 10, it's kind of hard to push damage. Like you're playing 3-mana 3/3s. Like 3-mana 3/3s is like one of the cheapest unit you play in your deck, so it's kind of hard to go wide enough where they can't just chump block a lot of the damage you're pushing. And with only Mystic Shot really for burn, you're not really going to be pushing for lethal thresholds very early into the game.
Yeah.
But if you're not against the puff cap deck, it's quite good. You're playing deny, so into the Siren Song decks, you can deny them. You are playing like palms and other stuff, so you can like stun big units. Like you're very good into the mid-range piles because you can like deal with their big threat for the turn, and then when you go off, they just cannot answer you. So I think Karma Set's been pretty solid.
Oh, but if Karma Set for some reason runs into the Traps deck and Jin Bandle, it's going to have a rough time because Riptide Rex at 1 mana fucks over Karma Set so much.
Yes. First, I want to say again, I played Jin Bandle first, outplayed people. And second, Jin Bandle is also one of the best decks this patch. Is something I honestly didn't expect it last patch when I was playing it so much, but I can say, Condensed Rex is really good, and the mirror is absolutely miserable, and I really hope I don't have to play it that much. But yeah, just Jin Bandle. It's mainly played with Gnar right now because Nora, while she's a good card, she's a lot more susceptible to removal, and we really value the Pokey Stick that Gnar's giving us and his champion spell. And honestly, we don't really need Nora as much as I had first thought when I first played the deck and took her out. She's actually not terrible to leave because like having Nora hurts some of your matchups more. Like you're playing against Karma, she's like kind of a dead card because they have so many Mystic Shots. She dies to a lot of the removal that exists in the game currently. So I'm perfectly fine with her not being in the deck. But yeah, just like the combination of Broadmane to just deal with the larger units and then Rex to close out the game makes the deck very strong, and it's like it can be very controlling, and then it has a great way to just turn the corner and end the game.
The power of Condensed once coming back, and just if you have Jin in hand and you manage to get a drop the bomb down on turn 5, being able to just fill the stack with damage with like Rex skills is like amazing into control matchups.
Yep, like especially Shurima, because obviously the big issue with Rex is that I put 7 skills in the stack. What your opponent can do is Verification or Avenging with Staya. But if you also have Jin, nothing else can go onto the stack, meaning that your opponent can't play any spells in response. It's also very good against, like, for example, you're against Karma Set. Usually they'd want to tag out their champion to save it, but you fill the stack, they can't tag out anymore, so they have to just watch their champion die. And also, if the stack is full, Karma doesn't double spells, even burst spells as well, which is really funny.
Now, Frenchie, you're talking about the power of Condense. This is a great transition. I think Condense might be another one of those cards we might see nerfed, and how whenever the balance patch is, it probably just goes to 3 mana. Siren Song, as with every other HP buff in the game, loses the HP buff. But I saw this really funny change that I personally would love. Siren Song is now 5 mana, deal 4 to the enemy Nexus.
Yeah, I did see that one. That's pretty funny.
You just reprint Decimate in Bilgewater.
What could
Hard.
possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? MF no longer has a splash Noxus. What happens now?
But yeah, I think we covered most of the most prevalent decks that we're gonna be probably expecting this coming Saturday for the Open. I think like a few other decks that are gonna show up, like Alawi Swain. It's another good deck that's out right now. Jax Orn is doing pretty well into quite a few things.
Doubt.
We have like hey, Jax Orn is like a 54% win rate, and it like is good into the Zolani decks because you can play the Unforgiving Cold. And then you're like they don't deal with your Orn very well. And silence doesn't get rid of keywords from weapons, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those decks, there's probably gonna be some other sleepers that are gonna emerge. So yeah, plenty of options people have for this weekend. So good luck in the Open to everyone who's playing in it. But I guess going back to what James was talking about, though, with looking beyond the Open to what we expect for balance changes. Obviously, there was no hotfix that came in. I was curious if that was going to be the case. So I know last week Riot had off because that was their break. So if there was anything was going to happen, it'd be this week. But with the Open happening so soon, I'm gonna guess they probably didn't want to like upend a lot of lineups with like only 3 days before the Open. So this will be the meta we'll play in for the Open. But beyond that, what do you guys expect to get changed in the future for like needing adjustments? Like besides just Siren Song and Condense, which I agree with.
Probably, as much as this probably won't see agreement from the comments, the Jin Bandle deck. Only because when Drizov kind of first posted about it and talked about it, he talked as if, oh, it's more attrition, which Riot hates the idea of attrition decks.
I think nerfing Condense is a good start for hitting that deck, because like if Condense is 3 mana, it makes it a lot more difficult to actually condense Rex in a reasonable manner. To like set up the bigger turns for it, it's a lot more difficulty mana efficient. You can't just like do it on turn 9. You can't just like play a 1-cost spell to proc Jin to play Rex, then condense Rex with lines like that.
I think it's also they might have to revert the 1 health buff on Broadmain.
Broadmain got +1/+1.
Yeah, like the extra damage is fine. It's as usual with lore, health breaks everything.
So I have some spicy thoughts for what I think is gonna get changed.
All right, let's hear it.
I think Alawi is gonna get a side grade this upcoming patch. I think that I forgot the name of the 1-drop.
Idol. Yes.
Idol, yeah. Tentacle Idol is gonna be nerfed, and I think either Tentacle Smash or Sermon is gonna get buffed.
They cannot revert Sermon at all in any way.
No, we cannot. We can't revert Sermon, but I think it's gonna get changed. Maybe.
Are you saying like what you think Watchful Idol is the best part of the Tentacle package right now, which I think is probably fair. Like Watchful Idol is insanely good with Swain and Alawi right now, so I can definitely see them wanting to. If they want to tone down if they think Alawi needs toning down, I think Watchful Idol is probably the place to look.
I don't think it's necessarily that we need to like tone down Alawi. It's more the fact that it is in that deck specifically, it's a very polarizing card where your ability to pop off with that deck increases significantly if you draw Idol in your mulligan versus not drawing Idol in your mulligan.
Yeah, it's like the difference between like dropping leveled Swain on 5 and having a 0 out of 12 Swain on 5 is like, what did you draw Watchful Idol I can definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
It's not just a flip Swain on 5. Idle on 1. Also, if you just open Idle on 1 and maybe 1 or 2 other tentacle things, you flip Lowy on 4 as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Lidl on 1, I agree, is like extremely polarizing for the deck. It's like it can, I think it probably drastically increases win rate. I wish I had the data to see what that would look like, but I can definitely see that being being something that they might want to look into in the future. I don't know if they're gonna pull in on making a change for it now or they're gonna wait. I presume they're probably gonna wait. I don't think they're going to change it. I think Condense and Siren Song is a great place for them to start. But beyond those two cards, I don't know if there's anything that's too problematic. Maybe something in Karma's set as well. They'd want to make sure that that doesn't just rise up as one of the best decks if those get nerfed.
So, about Karma set, you probably take 1 health off set since it is a set deck and not a Karma deck.
Says a well-rounded fighter giving him well-rounded stats. I could see it.
I could see that. I could agree. Yeah.
Or maybe just fix the coin interaction finally. Smile.
I mean, there was a test for focus coins on the PBE a while back. That was pulled. Maybe with more testing in the coming weeks, maybe they'll decide to actually implement that into the game. We'll have to see. I'm kind of neutral on that either way. Like, I don't care if they do or don't. But we'll have to see. Anything else you guys think they might be getting looked at?
Oh, I think they make Innovative Blacksmith 2-1 like most of the other 3-drop weapon masters.
I don't think that's going to be a problem for. I don't think Orange Jax is going to be that problematic with that card. I think that's not going to be. I don't think that's going to be a change that happens.
Not problematic card, but like the same process of Karma set. We don't want Jax Orn becoming the new best deck when everything else gets nerfed.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of that, it's probably something in Jinx Bandle might need to be touched as well. Then, if we're thinking along those lines, because Jinx Bandle already has a pretty high win rate, and if we nerf some of the other best decks, it will likely start rising up more and more, as it's very fast and it can kill you very quickly. So maybe something in that deck could sit. Although it's very hard looking at the list. It's very hard for me to say anything that where to start. Like weaker -1 HP, but then that card kind of dies, so it's like hard to say.
What if it's just you can only discard Wrench once per turn?
Or like just make Wrench the first time I'm discarded instead of whenever I'm discarded, something like that.
Yeah. Because who knew? Infinite discard fodder.
Hey, all I'm saying is I have seen my opponents burn plenty of Wrenches off. PSA, by the way, if you have an empty board and you play Parts Made Whole, discarding Return a Wrench, you do not get back Return a Wrench. It's been a friendly PSA.
I think the one card that might also get looked at, I don't know how it might get changed, but it probably gets looked at as Divine Clerk, because that card has kind of popped off this set.
Yes,
with,
I mean, I think touching Siren Song will probably be enough to tone down Divine Clerk, considering he was not seeing any play at all in any deck before Siren Song, and he's only seeing play in Siren Song decks.
That's not completely true.
He saw play in Pantheon Varus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you know what? That's fair. Although I honestly think it's fine for him to show up in that kind of deck because you have to commit more resources to him versus him just literally being a 1-mana 3/2 with lifesteal in the Siren Song decks, or bigger if they. The fact that like you can play a Siren Song and just get a 4/4 lifesteal unit with a random keyword is just so polarizing.
Oh yeah, incredibly. And here's one deck that I keep looking back to and thinking like, will they ever hit anything other than Siren Song? Because the cards that make it up aren't like that polar. Like I'm talking about Fizz Targon, which is the fact that that deck, as we talked about, is the strongest deck in the format probably right now, and it feels hard carried by Siren Song. But do we think there's anything other than Siren Song that's sort of like pulling that deck along.
Yes, they should have rotated Fizz.
That is a good take.
Yeah. Fizz is Fizz is always there to abuse something broken, whether it's broken spells or in this case a broken spell.
Also, the landmark, Reaver's Row.
Yes. Yeah, for once, Fizz is not abusing how broken spells are, just abusing the fact that the spell buffs all 1-drops, and he's the most annoying one to block in the game. Or deal with in the game. Oh, alright. Well, guys, I've had a long day. I had to also help with the Aegis recap show before this, so I'm about ready to wrap things up for today. Do you guys have anything else you want to share?
Nothing on my end. Although, I guess I could continue the meme and say, did you check your mic for this recording, Dragon?
What do you mean check my mic for this record? So if you didn't watch the Aegis show, I forgot to turn my mic on for the Aegis recap show. I had my mic on the wrong channel, so it didn't pick up any audio. So that was fun. But we got it fixed here. Either that, or you're going to hear a lot of long pauses with Frenchie and James speaking the entire time.
But for real question, has my mic cut out at all?
James, your
No.
mic is not cut out at.
Alright, then that's everything. Take care and good luck to all the participants in the Open.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Maybe even on the same day once again. We got 2 in a row. Surely we can keep this up. Also, surely I didn't say this and then not release this on Wednesday. Surely that didn't happen.
Surely.
It's okay. No one gets this far anyways. No one's going to hear this. All right. See you folks later. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.